Alright guys, we have the new ban list. It was to be expected to come at the few next days. We have it here, Master of Forbidden Limited List update. We have a prediction, or we have made a prediction, in which I predicted that Fire King would be hit, or Fire King Snake Eyes basically, but no other deck, because no other deck is really that problematic in my opinion. I was expecting something along the lines of going to 2 with the Diabellstar, or maybe Poplar to 1, which would have been crazy, or maybe even crazier, like forbidding the Oak or something, weakening the Snake Eye engine or weakening the Fire King engine by, for example, putting the Kirin to 2. But what we have here is one of the strangest lists that I personally have ever seen. Let me just click away these ads here. But let's take a look at it. We have cards to be unlimited, Trishula, Ring of the Ice Barrier from 2 to 3. That doesn't change anything. Infernity Launcher from 2 to 3. Not quite sure here, maybe you can let me know in the comments, guys. I know that this Infernity deck can kill you in 1 turn. I'm not quite sure if Infernity Launcher is the card that at 2 basically wasn't able to help the deck and now at 3 is. I'm not really familiar with the deck. I only know that sometimes I got killed by this when they always resummon one of, I think the guy on the left of the picture here of the card was the monster that was always resummoned and basically burned me in the end or something like this. But I'm guessing Infernity Launcher from 2 to 3 doesn't really change anything here. We have Divine Arsenal Zeus from 2 to 3. I wasn't even sure why they put it at like 2, because you're not really want to use it more than once in most decks. But we have it at 3 now, same as the TCG. OCG still has it at 1, and yeah, if you ask me, that's totally fine. You will never ever, I guess, use a triple Zeus in a deck, so that doesn't really matter. You can definitely put the guy to 3. Zeus is not a problem. It has not been a problem for a long time. There were these Turbo Zeus variants when the card came out and earlier, but now the card is pretty much power crapped in the sense that you still use it obviously in XYZ decks and it's still nice, but it is not that impactful as it was before, especially also because we have Typhon Starslayer now. We have Sekka's Light from 2 to 3. I remember Sekka's Light being used. What was this? We had no spells, trap in your grave, or draw 2 cards. Oh yeah, I remember this being used in Adamancipator, a deck that has definitely fallen off the cliff and is no longer around in the meta at all. So Sekka's Light, Adamancipator, that was definitely something, though then again, if I remember this correctly, I wasn't playing this at, or was I playing? I guess I played this at 2 in some variants, but this was also not a card that everyone needed to play. So yeah, this is definitely something that can happen here, and we talked about this oftentimes now, that cards come back from the ban list because they are no longer problematic. I like this because why should the ban list be full of cards that don't really need to be there, right? We have Super Heavy Samurai Wagon from 2 to 3, and this is definitely a bit more interesting one here. I think this is quite fine because we have not seen Super Heavy Samurai in a while now. I'm not quite sure for what reason, because I'm not super familiar with the deck, but if we look at the tier list here, you don't see Super Heavy Samurai here at all, and we can go see top decks, and we will probably find some Super Heavy Samurai lists here, I would guess. But yeah, it's definitely not at that point as it was before when it came out. It might be due to the fact that the bow, basically the Super Heavy Samurai crossbow, or how it's called, is at 1 now, and I think this was very important. You need to find this bow, or you need to hard open the bow in order to resummon the bow and search other pieces. I think this is very important, and hitting the bow to 1, we can see it here. There it is, Super Heavy Samurai. This is what I wanted to see, right? But you can see right here, the Soul Piercer it is. Yeah, the Soul Piercer is now at 1, and I think this is a bit problematic for the deck, honestly. So I think this is why this basically fell off the cliff, and I don't think that a Super Heavy Samurai Wagon from 2 to 3 will change this, so we won't see Super Heavy Samurai again. This is also because, and you can let me know in the comments if this is also your opinion, this deck was really boring. Not a lot of people will enjoy playing it. Like, people played it because it was the strongest deck at some point, but that was basically it. And then we have cards to be forbidden here, and here comes the big surprise. And this is the end of the list, guys. Everything full of ads here. Full changes, cards to be forbidden. We have Ido, the Supreme Magical Force, 3 to 0, and Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, 3 to 0. And obviously, this is a hit that concerns one deck and one deck only, and that is Branded. A lot of Branded decks obviously are running the Gimmick Puppet. You can see it right here. One is in 54% of all decks. I have just yesterday played, and I will make a video about this, a 128 player Challenger Cup and won it again. And in the top 4 there were only branded players and me with my Snake Eyes Fire King deck. There were also Arbo mode, which I played against. Very, very funny, but I will make a video concerning this tournament recap basically. But you can see that 50% of the branded players were playing Gimmick, a Puppet, and Nightmare. I'm surprised that it is that low, because I think if you're not playing a Gimmick, Puppet, Nightmare in your branded deck, you are crazy, honestly, because it's just so strong, not only locking your opponent on his first turn, but also if the game goes longer, goes a bit longer, you can also, if you, for example, break your Snake Eyes opponent's board, and then you can summon the Gimmick Puppet in the second turn, basically, basically negate the summon of like level 1 bodies from the Flamebird Dragon on your opponent's next turn. This is super impactful, and once this thing is in rotation, you can obviously always kill it and then resummon it. Once you have this rotation going with Branded, the game is over, and this can happen on the first turn. This is just a crazy, insane card. Super surprised that this was only in 54% of all branded decks. You should play it in every branded deck, in my opinion, and now you should definitely do it, because enjoy your last weeks of playing this card. We also can, I guess this will go, okay, this goes live on August the 7th, which is, I think someone told me this in the comments, it was one day before we will get the new pack, basically, which as of right now, we know that there will be the Ice Barrier cards, and that's basically it. Obviously with new leaks coming on a Monday. And then we have also Edo, the Supreme Magical Force, being forbidden. And this is also because branded, because this would be a potential replacement for the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, right? Because it says you cannot summon monsters. And yeah, the rest is basically not irrelevant, but you can also just go ahead and dump the Edo to the graveyard, and then you can summon the Edo to your opponent's field, which, as long as this card is on the graveyard, on the field, you cannot summon monsters. Obviously, this is weaker than is the Gimmick Puppet, because Gimmick Puppet says once this has hit the field, it activates this effect, and then the effect is for the rest of the turn, even if you get rid of the Gimmick Puppet. So, for example, this is obviously way worse against decks like Snake Eyes, also decks like a Jubel, which are the decks that are the most strongest at the current moment, because obviously you can in Jubel just go ahead and Nightmare Pain shoot this thing, or you can in Snake Eyes, for example, just go ahead and send this away with an original Sinful Spoils, for example. You couldn't send this away, or can you send this away with an original Sinful Spoils? Because, well, I think you can't even, because you are not allowed to summon with the original Sinful Spoils because of the Edo, therefore you can't send the Edo away. You could also not send this away for Diabellstar, I think, and in that case it's not even that bad, but this would work with, for example, on the Jubel Nightmare Pain to get this off the field. This is just the weaker version of the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, and we are removing both of them. I think this is quite nice, honestly. The game is at a better point when these floodgatey or these your opponent cannot play the game strategies are no longer in the game. Obviously, some decks will suffer. We had a Centurion where they banned the Hot Red King Calamity, basically, which made the deck useless, unfortunately. So this is then a dead archetype where the TCG still has this and people are still playing Centurion. Obviously, it's no problem if we are in a best of 3 format, because then you can side against such strategies. But in a best of 1 format, it obviously is a big problem. This is why we are seeing these cards go from time to time. And I like this. I like this change. Then again, I have to say that this doesn't really help the game, as Jubel and Snake Eye Fire King are at the moment the strongest decks. Even though, in my opinion, let me quickly turn this thing on. This is really annoying. Adblock really the ads being annoying here. Let's see whether this is better. But they always ask me, oh, okay, and then I can't open the website. It's a bit annoying. Okay, now we have it here. Okay, we have Jubel and Snake Eyes Fire King, and yeah, the ads are back, but I don't care. We have this at power 23, this at power 21.5, and I think, in my opinion, the Snake Eye Fire King, I've told you this in my top 5 decks for the month. This is way, way better than is Jubel, in my opinion. Okay, maybe not way, way better, but way better. At least better than Jubel. And then we have here Branded, which now Branded obviously will fall a tier lower, you could say, and the top decks are still unhit. This is not a big surprise when it comes to Jubel. I already said that I don't think Jubel will get hit because it's just released, the pack is still in the shop, and so on. But I was really expecting hits for Fire King or Snake Eyes because these decks, or the Snake Engine in general, will get new support in the future with the Fiendsmith stuff, and we will need to hit this again or in order to have this deck not be like the most insane deck that this game has ever seen, basically. Obviously, we will also get Fiendsmith Jubel, and that kind of balances that out, but I'm very surprised by this ban list. I don't really agree. I agree with getting rid of cards like the Gimmick Puppet and the Edo. I also agree that we have not banned, for example, another way would have been to ban the Sanctifier Dragon, the Albion. I'm very happy that we have banned the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare because obviously the problematic card is the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, not the Albion. The Albion is actually a really cool and nice card, also very important in Branded, even without the Gimmick Puppet, because you can also revive your Mirror Jade, for example. So this definitely pushes Branded, and if we would have forbidden this card here, then not only would the Gimmick Puppet Lord basically no longer work, but also Branded would have lost another important support piece, and this would have made the deck even worse. So yeah, Branded will definitely see a downtick in popularity with the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare gone. Then again, Branded player also just love to play their deck, and playing Branded basically doesn't really mean playing a Gimmick Puppet Lock because it's just boring play. A friend of mine who is an avid Branded player always complains. He obviously plays the Gimmick Puppet in tournaments because it's just that strong, but he complains that playing Branded in a normal way is way more fun. So I guess we will see Branded still being around, but it will be less toxic, you could say. So I like this, though. Then again, I'm very surprised that we didn't see any Snake Eyes or Fire King hits, and I don't really agree with this. I think we need to hit this deck once again, at least a bit. So Kirin to 2, Diabellstar to 2, Poplar to 1. I think this has to happen at some point. Very surprised that it didn't happen. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think of this list. I'm kind of in the middle between I like it and I don't really like it, but let me know. Thanks for being here. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, and we will see each other in the next one.